I'm Jeanette, the Northbound Coach. I'm so glad that you've joined me here today. We are going to jump into a topic that I think is really important. And I think it's so important because so many of my coaching clients have been coming forward and complaining of this particular issue. And it is the issue of a lack of confidence in their abilities, in their career, etc. Sometimes they will describe it with the phrase feeling like they are suffering from imposter syndrome. So we'll call those ideas synonymous. So it's a lack of confidence. And this is a significant and important issue because if you don't have the confidence in your skills and abilities to do your job well, you basically are stuck in place and, potentially at its worst, in jeopardy of, even being able to successfully do the current role. Certainly, you are not in a position to be thinking about career growth and new opportunities. So it is an issue that needs to be solved ASAP. So I want to offer an idea today, one idea. There are many different ideas that we can dive into. But today I want to just offer one thought around how you can deal with this. And it feels counterintuitive because when you are in the midst of the situation where you have a lack of confidence, it is the probably last thing you think about doing. But I'd say it actually needs to be the first thing that you do. Initially, maybe it's just small steps in this direction, but I'd say let's try this counterintuitive idea. And the idea is this, that in the time that you have had your confidence eroded, that you have probably leaned more and more towards saying a bunch of yes, 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 as you have tried to cling on to, what you can do to be successful in your role. And in fact, the counterintuitive idea here is that you've got to turn down the dial on yes and turn up the dial on no. Now, why do I say that? Well, let's dig into one particular scenario, which sadly is more common than, we would want it to be. But oftentimes, an erosion of confidence comes when you find yourself in a situation where you have a manager who could be described as micromanaging. So this is that lack of autonomy where for whatever set of reasons, you find yourself having to deal with a manager who is way into your business, really into the nooks and crannies of how you are getting the work done. So they're, the expression, they want to get involved in, how you dot every I, how you cross every T. And over the course of time, when you are dealing with this sort of management style, it really starts to erode confidence because, the logical sequence of thinking here is, well, if my manager needs to be in the weeds with me in how I get my job done, they must have no confidence in me and my abilities because they have to be there doing that work for me, essentially. Now, we know that that's not true in so many of these cases. And I'd offer that so many times the micromanaging manager's behavior has nothing to do with your own performance. They make it seem like it is. They make it seem like it is to a really large extent. But if you were able to really peel back the layers to see what's actually going on under the surface, I would offer that many, many times the manager's behavior is really driven at its core by fear. Perhaps they are having their performance scrutinized and getting some, negative feedback around how they might be leading the functional area, or they have just their own fears that they are contending with, made up or otherwise around, what needs to be happening. And so their reaction is to, jump into the weeds with you. And that really, of course, as you know, if you've been in that situation, is very uncomfortable and really not a sustainable sort of a situation for the long term. So the thing is, when you are the recipient of that sort of management style, likely you're wanting to appease and make things better and build up trust. And so you end up doing a lot of yes, 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 until you're backed into such a corner as there's just no place to go. And so, what I'd offer as the counterintuitive idea here is let's try a little bit of no. Let's try just being a little bit more assertive, building, as much courage as you can, because it's hard. I know it's hard in this situation because the power dynamic is not in your favor. And it's not sustainable to sit in this situation for the long term. So we need to get out of the corner that we've been backed into and just one small assertive step after another, which is probably a series of like renegotiating what those boundaries are, saying a lot yes, less of the yes, a lot more of the no, but slowly over time, starting to build that back. And as that assertiveness grows, so does your confidence because you are regaining that ground. And then, of course, in the long term, that's either a much better situation for the current relationship with the manager, or you've built up enough of the confidence to say, all right, that's enough for now. And I need to move on to a better situation, but you've regained the confidence around that. I know that's a simplistic sort of a scenario, but I think in its simplicity, it is so powerful. If this is your situation, I am so sorry that you are in this situation. It is hard. I would be happy to strategize with you around how you can move out of that. I'll put a link in the description box where you can sign up for just a free, no obligation strategy session where we can just talk about your situation a little bit more. I'm happy to do that for you. I'd also, love to engage in comments, carry on a conversation there with you as well, particularly if you have gone through this situation and have tips around what has worked well for you. I'd love for you to share that with our audience out there. So thanks for joining me today. I will be back next week with another video, and I wish you the best of weeks ahead.